When the pH is 7, then it's a case where the sample is neither acid nor base. But less than 7, it's an acid, we say. More than 7, it's a base all the way.
Welcome to the past HSC exam question videos. While doing this video, I'll cover this exam question, which comes from the acids and pH scale chapter. So this is the actual question. I'll read it in a second. Once I've read the question, you get about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then press play when you're ready. The question itself is a 0.01 molar per liter solution of hydrochloric acid and a 0.056 molar per liter solution of ethanoic acid. Both have a pH of 3. Why do both solutions have the same pH? And that's worth 3 marks. So pause the video, and when we're ready, attempt the question. Welcome back. Alright, so for this one, you should focus on the 3 mark parts. So first part you should mention is that the concentrations are different, or doesn't have to be first that you mention it, just mention that the concentrations are different. That one is a strong acid, and the other one is a weaker acid. You should also mention what that means to do with the ionization of molecules. And then link all of this to the pH scale, or what pH actually is, which is a pH is a measure of the concentration of hydrogen ions. So the more concentration of hydrogen ions we have, the lower our pH. So mention all that in your answer, and that will get you 3 marks. So what I wrote is hydrochloric acid is a strong acid and ionizes completely, meaning that 0.001 mole per liter of hydrogen ions are produced by 0.01 mole of hydrochloric acid. And then you would type that into your calculator. You can show them that, if you put that into your equation, you get a pH of 3. So yeah, what that meant was that we have a hydrochloric acid. We put that into our water, and then all of those 0.001 mole will dissociate into H plus or hydronium ions, H3O plus, and into Cl minus, which means if we had 0.001 mole here, we'll also have 0.001 mole there. So that is complete ionization. Every molecule here will become its ion form. And that's for our hydrochloric acid. Now, why does our ethanoic acid have the same pH, even though it's a weaker acid? That's what we mentioned next. So what I wrote is ethanoic acid is a weaker acid and should have a higher pH, but the concentration is significantly higher for ethanoic acid than it is for hydrochloric acid. So that's important, right? So we mentioned that because it's a weaker acid, it should have a higher pH, but because the concentrations are different, that's why the pH is the same. I mean, the weaker acid will still produce just as many hydrogen ions and hence have the same pH. So this weaker acid, whilst it won't completely ionize like the stronger acid does, it will actually have the same amount of hydrogen concentration, so it will have the same amount of these. And the reason why is because we had more to begin with. Right? Here we have 0.01 molar for hydrochloric acid, but for ethanoic acid we had 0.056 molar. So in this case, the concentrations will be identical for them in both scenarios, but we just have more of ethanoic acid to begin with. And that's important because it's a weaker acid, which means not all of it will dissociate into hydrogen ions. But if we have more of it, then we get the same amount. And that's why both of these have the same pH. So we get a point for mentioning the fact that hydrochloric acid is a strong acid and ionizes completely, and get a point for mentioning that the ethanoic acid is a weaker acid, which means they don't ionize completely, and linking the concentrations, so difference in concentrations, to it having the same pH. That'll get your mark as well. And that's overall, that will be worth 3 marks out of 3. So that was a 3 mark question. And that question came from, actually I forgot to include this little dot point here, but it came from the question of comparing hydrochloric acid or different types of acids and linking that to the degree of ionization. So that was a dot point that was saying we need to know about that degree of ionization. and what that means, and how a strong acid has a high degree of ionization and how a weak acid has a low degree of ionization. I hope that was useful.
Thank you for watching.